The Art of Living book by Thich Nhat Hanh. No one wants to get to the end of their life and realize they haven't lived up to their full potential. And yet, our busy lives are taking us right in that direction. We miss out on the present moment when we hurry from place to place or stay glued to our screens. But all we have is this moment. The past is over, and the future hasn't happened yet. So why do we let ourselves be busy or distracted instead of connecting with the here and now? They also teach practices that can help you learn what it means to really live. You'll learn what really keeps you so busy, why having no goals is good for you, and how to reach nirvana before you die. No such thing as a separate self exists. How is a flower put together? The clear answer is a stem, leaves, and petals, which are easy to see. But in reality, it's a lot more complicated than that. A flower is also the soil that grew it, the rain that nourished it, and the sun that lit it up. Space and time are also a part of its being. If you took away any of these non-flower parts, there would be no flower. Humans are no different. Your body is made up of trillions of cells that aren't human, and these cells keep you alive. In fact, you have the whole universe inside you, from the air you breathe and the food you eat to the education and culture that make you who you are. And then there are your ancestors, who have been around for many generations. If you took away any of these things, you wouldn't be who you are. The main point of this is that there is no separate self. People are not separate from each other. Instead, every person is an inner being, which means that they are made up of parts that come from different places and times. Children show this connection very well. Not only will a child look like her parents, but she will also talk and act like them. In the same way, you can see signs of the child in her parents. So, neither the child nor her parents are a self in their own right. They are too closely linked to be able to live on their own. We are more than just the sum of our genes. In fact, it doesn't even require personal contact. Just look at Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Zen master and author. Even though he doesn't have biological children, if you watch his students, you'll notice that they move and talk like him. Even students who have only read his books have absorbed some of what he was like. If you think about your ancestors or your teachers as you go about your daily life, you can feel connected to everything. No matter what you're going through, it can be very comforting to remember that you're not alone. So, whether you're doing the dishes, working on a project, or practicing a skill, you can remember that you are part of the world, which is a living, breathing cell. Not only that, but you are also a part of the world. You have always been there, and you always will be there. Imagine looking up and seeing a cloud moving across the sky. When you look back at the sky after turning away for a moment, you see that the cloud is gone. You come to the conclusion that the cloud is gone. But this isn't true, of course. The cloud on the sky never went away. Just like mist or rain, it turned into something else. The first law of thermodynamics says that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it can only be changed. In the same way, a cloud will always be there. Instead, the cloud you saw yesterday might become water that you will drink someday. Putting names on things, like cloud or person, helps us figure out where they are in the world. But if the sign doesn't work anymore, you might think that part of the world doesn't exist anymore. So, if you want to know what life is all about, you have to look beyond signs. Here's the main point: you have always been there, and you always will be there. We mark dates on a calendar with birth and death. But these signs don't tell the whole story of life. You were in your mother's womb before you were born. And before that, the parts of you were in the sperm and egg that came together to make you. These things were also true of your grandparents and other ancestors. That means you've always been there. You just kept changing until you became who you are now. In the same way, you will keep living on after you die. Even though most people think of death as bad, it's just another change, like a cloud that turns into rain. In fact, death is what makes life possible because it causes a new way of being to come into being. When death changes our lives, we often need time to figure out what that means. We feel pain, but we also feel pain when we are born. The pain is easier to deal with when you know that something new has begun. So, if you look closely enough, you'll eventually see the new way of being that comes with death. Thinking of your life as a series of changes helps you get over your fear of dying. And when you're no longer afraid of death or sad about it, you'll stop seeing the world in terms of its signs and instead see it as a rich tapestry of life. Peace comes from quiet. Our ancestors learned to run so they could get away from danger and catch animals to eat. Even though most people don't have to run the same way to stay alive anymore, the urge to hunt is still hardwired into our cells. Our goal is the only thing that has changed. We don't go after animals anymore. Instead, we go after money, love, health, and even helping other people. But in trying to reach these goals, we miss out on the beauty of the present because we are so focused on the future. We tell ourselves that all our hard work will pay off one day when we reach our idea of heaven and are happy. But we can already get to heaven. We could enjoy it right now if we stopped running. The main point is that peace comes from quiet. If you're always in a hurry or always looking for something you think you don't have, you can't enjoy the beauty of the moment you're in. Instead of feeling the joy of being alive right now, your mind is full of plans and things to do. You can't feel at peace when you're always wanting something. To get rid of this, try practicing aimlessness, a Buddhist way to stay firmly in the present moment. Being without a goal doesn't mean you're not doing anything. It's a state in which you don't want to go after things or goals. If you don't have a goal to chase, you can be still and focus on the present. You'll find peace in that quiet. It will also show you how amazing it is to be alive. Joy comes into your life when you train yourself to stay in the moment. It also makes the lives of the people around you better. When you don't have any goals, you're no longer driven by the need to reach them. You can instead pay attention to what's going on around you. This will make you care about other people instead of being driven by fear or greed. In this newly awakened way of thinking, peace gives you the energy back that you would have lost by being busy. That gives you a chance to get smarter and more caring. Change is a good thing. You can never bathe in the same river twice, said the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus. When you go back for a second swim, the water you first swam in will have moved on. In the same way, because cells in your body have died and been replaced, you are not the same person you were yesterday. Most people are afraid of change. We think it means bad times are coming, but we forget that it can also mean good times are coming. Change helps people get better and puts an end to cruel governments. Even in terrible times like war, when it seems like there's no way out, we can take comfort in the fact that nothing lasts forever. Here's the main point: change is a good thing. The human body is an amazing organism that can do amazing things. It can walk, talk, think, and have feelings. But it will stop being able to do these things at some point. Knowing that your body will turn to dust one day can help you value it more. Accepting this change can also help you appreciate the present even more. Impermanence isn't just about things that die. It also applies to how people think and feel. Because your inner world is always changing, the you were a moment ago isn't the same you are now. This means that your pain and worries are also temporary. Knowing this will give you the courage to deal with hard feelings. You can be sure that the way you feel will change at some point. Our internal changeability gives us a chance to do good things. If you think of your mind as a garden and yourself as the gardener, you can choose which parts of yourself to grow and which to get rid of. Peace and happiness will grow in your life if you take care of the seeds of these things. Without change, nothing would get better. A plant would never grow from the seed, and the child would never grow up. And even though we all have negative seeds in our gardens, like anger and fear, we can choose not to grow them. If we instead focus on making ourselves better, impermanence will make us better. To get your freedom back, you have to give up what you want. Imagine that a fish is swimming in a river and finds a tasty piece of bait. The fish, of course, eats the bait right away, not knowing that it has a hook inside. And with that, the fish is no longer free. In the same way, cravings are like that fish bait. They remind us of all the things we want, but we can't tell how much they hook us. And instead of making us happy, they only end up making us sad. So, if we want to be happy, we need to stop following the bait. The main point is that if you want to be free again, you have to let go of your wants. Everyone wants something. The feeling of wanting something comes from our deep fears of dying, which we had when we were born. All of a sudden, our mother stopped giving us oxygen, and we had to do it on our own. As babies, we still have this original fear for our lives, so we find ways to get adults to care for us. But the fear doesn't go away when we grow up and can take care of ourselves. We want to be with people and don't want to be left alone, so we look for close relationships to make us feel less alone. But if we don't have love, these things make us feel even more alone. The problem with cravings is that even if you get exactly what you want, they don't satisfy you. You'll always want more or something different, so you'll never be happy. So, if you keep your eyes on the prize, you won't enjoy life in the present. To break out of this bad pattern, you have to give up what you want. Start by thinking deeply about your situation so that you can figure out what you want. As an example, it could be a certain job. This is what your bait is. Next, Look at your craving honestly to see if there's a hook that will take away your freedom, like having to work long hours or be stressed out a lot. Last, think about whether or not that hook is dangerous for you. How will that job affect your health and relationships, for example? Knowing how much pain a craving can cause is often enough to get rid of it. To live in the present, you have to face your pain. When a new baby cries, his mother will rush to the crib and hold him gently. Even though the baby's mother doesn't yet know what's hurting him, just holding him makes him feel better. If the baby's mother left him alone while he cried, he would only get more upset. Like that baby, the pain we feel makes us want to be held. But unlike a caring mother, we usually ignore it. Instead of dealing with our pain, we keep ourselves busy to avoid it. We drown out the sound of our pain with our phones, our work, and our cravings. But the only way to get better is to accept what we feel with love. Here's the main point: to live in the present, you have to face your pain. Healing is a life-changing act that will bring you back to peace and happiness. But you can only heal if you are fully present and look at your pain honestly. Most of the time, you can't do this because you're too busy with things or feelings that keep you from being in the moment. For example, you might feel stuck because of work, a busy lifestyle, sadness, anger, or a relationship you haven't paid enough attention to. Or maybe you wanted something, like money, power, or food. All of these things take your mind off the pain that wants to be soothed. Start the healing process and set yourself free by meditating on what is keeping you from being in the moment. Ask yourself where and why these barriers came from. Next, think about what you value most. Is what's holding you back more important than living your life to the fullest? Knowing that the most important thing to you is to live fully will help you let go of things that aren't important. Once you're free of them, you can start to heal by letting yourself feel and acknowledge your pain. There are many ways to accept pain. Some of them are writing, drawing, or listening to music. Thich Nhat Hanh writes poems about his suffering. Or he thinks about a good memory that makes him feel better, like his favorite cedar trees or a child laughing. When you do these things, you'll remember that the world is still full of wonder, even when you're going through hard times. Nirvana is not a place you go after you die. It is a way of living. When Thich Nhat Hanh was on a teaching tour in Kuala Lumpur, he saw billboards for a Buddhist funeral service company called Nirvana. He didn't like the name because the Buddha had never connected nirvana with death. Western Buddhist scholars have wrongly said that nirvana is the eternal death that happens after the last life cycle. But this definition doesn't fit with what the Buddha taught. If existence goes on forever, you can't die forever. Instead, the Buddha said that nirvana is the good feeling you get when your problems are solved, like when you pull a thorn out of your foot. It's not a prize that you get at the end of your life. Everyone can reach this state every day. The main point is that nirvana is not a place you go after you die, it is a way of living. Every person has a fire inside that is fed by worries, desires, and regrets. But you can find peace by transforming these hard feelings through meditation. This is the best place to be. Nirvana can be felt in small amounts throughout the day. One way to get there is to realize that everything will go on, since this makes the fear of death go away. When you think about the world from the point of view of continuous being, you can let go of signs like life and death because you know they don't represent reality. This will make you feel at ease. Many people think they aren't wise enough to reach nirvana because they think it's a reward. But that's not the case. Even after he became a Buddha, the Buddha was still a person. He still hurt, was hungry, felt cold, and was tired. He also had feelings, just like every other person. But he got to nirvana because he knew how to deal with his pain. When you do the same, you'll get to nirvana, too. You don't just get through suffering once. It will always be there, so you'll always have to face it and change it through meditation. But with pain comes enlightenment. You reach nirvana when you look into the heart of your suffering and turn its fire into sweet relief. To really be alive, you have to live in the moment. But it's hard to live in the here and now. Wants and goals can get in the way. And if you're having hard feelings, you'll want to avoid the present or hide your feelings by being busy because it seems too hard to deal with them. But when you find the courage to be still and accept your pain, you start to heal and get rid of the things that keep you from being at peace. This lets you feel deeply connected to the wonder of your life as it happens. What you should do to put what you've learned to use. Use meditation on breathing to stop feeling restless. If you're always rushing from one thing to the next, make it a habit to ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. When you reach for the TV remote, for example, ask yourself if you really want to watch a certain show or if you're just looking for a quick way out. If you're trying to hide your pain by watching TV, pay attention to how you're breathing and accept how you're feeling. Use this time to get back in touch with the people and things around you and to remind yourself that you are deeply supported because you are not alone. Thanks for watching.